Welcome to the Enduro Method podcast. Enduro Method is an online strength and conditioning program built for those who ride by those who ride. We are professional coaches dedicated to building the best and most revolutionary off-the-bike training for dirt bikers around. We are offering a special discount for our podcast listeners. Use discount code EMPodcast22 for 50% off your first month. For more information, head to the description of this podcast where you can find the discount code and a link for more information and to sign up. Hi, and welcome to the Enduro Method podcast. Dane here with Josh. And today we will be talking about our new 8-week hard enduro training plan. We'll be talking about what it is, what it does, who it is for, what it consists of, and all that jazz. So if you have absolutely zero interest in learning about our 8-week hard enduro training plan, then maybe skip next.
Yeah, this one might not be for you.
This one might not be for you. So, however, if you are interested or have been wondering about it or maybe saw it, and if you're like me, I don't like to read anything, but I'll listen to podcasts and short Instagram reels, then this might be for you. Or if you saw it and you're like, I'd like to learn a little bit more about it, this might be for you. If not, you can go ahead and ignore, or you can listen to us banter about our 8-week hard enduro training plan and how it came to be. Okay, so without further ado, Josh, take it away. What is the new hard enduro training plan?
So, in a nutshell, it's an 8-week program. It has a build-up, a deload week, a build-up, and then a taper week. So, if you had an event or race that you were looking to perform your best at in the 4-hour to 5-hour time range, which is typical for single race hard enduros, this would be a great plan to do. And you would want to start it literally 8 weeks out from your race. If this would also be something that you could run multiple times in a row, so you could literally run it for 8 weeks, do your race, take a week off, run it for another, go through the retest again, and ideally you would have gained fitness during your first 8 weeks. You would retest, and then use your new paces and strength and move forward and run it for another 8 weeks. So it's not necessarily something you would purchase as a one-off deal. You could use this for years, if not longer, until you got sick of doing it, basically. But as long as you saw improvements in your from your tests in the beginning of the first week that you go through, then there'd be no reason not to continue to go through it.
What if you don't see improvements?
First question would be if you did it entirely. Like if you did week 1 and then kind of did half the plan and then didn't see much improvement, then it would be doing the full plan all the way through. And this sounds a little snarky, but it's true. If you go through this, you're going to see improvement. And if you go through it and you don't see improvement, then I would say the first thing to look at was if you took thorough notes on your pacing, if you held the paces you were supposed to for the time durations. At the end of the day, you could potentially half-ass it and not see improvement for sure. But that's the way with most things. If you do it as prescribed and are consistent, you'll see improvement.
Great. Who's it for?
Anybody that is interested in increasing their race performance. I mean, that's what this plan is geared for. So I wouldn't recommend doing this. You could do it if you didn't have a race, but it is geared toward performing at a race.
Like what makes that so?
The way it's designed with the build and taper, right? So we're starting out, we're doing some tests. You're using those tests to learn some pacing, different intensities and pacing, and then we're building on that in volume throughout the weeks. And then at the end, you're tapering and going into a race. Not to say you couldn't do it if you weren't racing, you absolutely could, but the whole premise of it is to set yourself up to perform. Yeah, the whole point is to build and taper. If you don't have an specific event in mind, there's not necessarily a need to taper going in, right? Any style of training, for the most part, you want to build an intensity or volume for a certain period of time, then you deload or back off a little bit and then restart and go back up. It's kind of the nature of how we make improvements. It's not a linear thing. You're not just going to start somewhere and make improvements endlessly for the rest of your life. You're going to have periods of time that you make improvements, and then you're going to take some rest or back off, switch it up, and then start over. So hopefully over time, if you chart that out, it looks like an upward progression in whatever you're trying to do. But it's not that you're just going to start somewhere and continually see improvements all the time.
So what do you need to complete this program?
So ideally you would have access to a gym, or if you had a home gym with a decent amount of equipment, you kind of need a rack, a barbell with assortment of various weights, a bench, dumbbells or kettlebells, pull-up bar or ring setup, Concept 2 erg of some kind, so either a rower, a bike, stationary bike, assault bike, ski erg, doesn't really matter, or the ability to run, and a plyo box of some sort, something stable to be able to do step-ups or box jumps on. So pretty short list of equipment needs, and you could get away with a little less if you were a little creative. You could always reach out if you need substitutions too for exercises. That would be for the gym workout days. Cardio days, again, you either need a rowing erg, any type of cardio equipment really, or the ability to run, or, and what the plan mainly calls out for, is on the bike, so being able to ride your dirt bike 3 days a week. Now, I know that's not necessarily feasible for everybody. Take us as an example. We are in a lot of snow, can't get outside. Driving to ride for us doesn't work, it's too far. So I'm doing all of that would be on the bike, we're calling it on the bike alternative days, on the rowing erg here in the gym. So definitely not as fun, definitely not as sport specific, right? The best way to train for riding from a skill and fitness as far as like specific to racing is on the bike, but there's a whole bunch of issues that come along with being able to do that on the bike as well.
What are those?
So part of the thing that's hard about trying to give call outs for this is designing a template essentially, or a way to monitor intensity on a dirt bike. So if you're a C rider or a pro rider or a B or an A rider, it looks a lot different from the outside. But from the rider perspective, it's actually probably similar, because whatever's really hard for a C rider and whatever's really hard from a pro rider, from the outside looks completely different, right? The terrain's different, the speed's different, but the feeling of difficulty is very similar. So I can't write something that is a call out for...
What's a call out?
I can't prescribe what to do on the dirt bike. Like, I can't say, all right, you need to find this creek section that's really hard and it's got 4-foot step ups, and go hit that for 60 seconds as hard as you can. Like, that doesn't work, because first, I can't see the creek section. I've never seen the individual ride. It could be something that you could potentially get hurt on. Maybe it's way too hard for you. Maybe it's way too easy for you. So you're going to have to, for the on the bike stuff, you're going to have to look at it from your ability, the terrain that you're able to use to ride with, and then read the descriptions and the instructions and intent, and then interpret that and take it outside and try and accomplish it on the bike. The good part about that is that you have to really pay attention to you and how you ride, And that'll carry over massively just in learning yourself. So learning what it feels like to go really freaking hard for, let's just say, 4 minutes, what it feels like to go at a moderate pace for 4 minutes, and what it feels like to go at a, easy pace for 4 minutes. And once you can differentiate that, that's going to be a huge benefit when you're racing, because race intensity is going to be determined by how challenging the course is for you and the duration of the race. So a 1 hour race would be a much faster pace and intensity than a 4 hour race. Just the nature of the duration. Like, if somebody was doing a race and they could race a 4 hour race at a 1 hour pace, they would, but you can't, right? So it's very much learning to implement different intensities at different durations. And that's going to be, in the long run, that's the ultimate goal, right? You're able to know how hard and how fast you can go for how long the race is, instead of going as hard as you can for 30 seconds, blowing up, and then not even barely being able to finish the race, or you're just completely smoked at the end. So a lot of on the bike stuff is going to be learning yourself, learning your style. From there, picking terrain that is kind of matches what the descriptions are and the intent of the workout, and then sticking to time domains.
Anything else you want to add about this program?
Real quick on the erg side of it, or if you're doing this on a piece of cardio equipment, it's much easier because you have a screen in front of you giving you your effort feedback immediately. So you go through week 1, you do the tests, you find your average pace that you were able to hold for the durations, and you literally plug those paces back in for the interval work. Super easy from a math perspective, not from an effort perspective. You do the intervals at those paces for the entire 8-week block, and you've accrued much more volume at those specific paces from when you started. That improves your fitness going forward. And that's why I'm saying you could run this again very easily, because you would just retest. You would most likely have faster average paces per test interval going forward. You'd plug those new paces in, which are faster, and again, get fitter.
What if you can't do 6 days a week?
Do as many as you can. The 3 on the bike workouts are the most important, right? Again, we are racing. Like, that's the whole purpose of it. So doing those either on the bike or on an erg would be optimal. From there, the other 2 gym days, obviously, and then the last day, I hate to say any day is dispensable. I mean, we don't put shit in there for filler. Like, I abhor doing stuff that's a waste of time. So everything that's in there is important. But if you had to bring it back from a time issue, yeah, getting the 3 on the bike days. And then I should mention, so 2 days are interval work, and then the other day on the bike, and that's the Saturday workout, is a long ride. And we're just trying to accrue volume at a moderate intensity there. So it starts out a little bit shorter, and then over the course of the weeks, we ramp up to full length race time duration on the bike. And those days should be treated as if you're racing, not from a ride intensity standpoint, but from a routine standpoint. So the food, this is a great time to play around with what you eat before the race, track it, write it down, so you have a reference moving forward. Water, caffeine intake, whatever it is you do, all those things should be just like you would on a race day. Your hydration pack, your electrolyte setup, all that stuff, your pre-ride routine. I mean, you ideally are treating this like a race. If you got a little bit nervous before that day, that's great. Because again, if you can, the more you can simulate race day, the better. And then on race day, it's just going to feel a little bit easier. And you're going to be much more in tune with it than, just coming out cold.
I think I commonly get nervous before almost every ride.
Every ride? Yeah, I definitely do before races.
Well, before races for sure, but even rides.
Yeah, so the more you can learn to live with that feeling and manage it, the better. Because you're going to, most likely, there's probably some people that don't, but most likely you're going to be nervous, so it's just how you deal with it.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it, but this plan can literally be used by almost riders of any ability. It's just the terrain and the intensity that is going to be different from rider to rider. But the call-outs, durations, and everything else is going to be the same. So this is not a drills and skills development program. This is literally a get you in shape to race program.
Get you in ride shape.
Yeah, race shape.
Race shape.
Yeah, looking forward to doing a bunch more of this kind of stuff in the future for different style of races. Again, this one is for, more or less for a 4 to 5 hour hard enduro. As the duration changes, so if this was a 3 hour race, you could essentially use basically the same plan. You just cut a little bit of the volume here and there. If it was a longer race, you would just add volume here and there. If it's more like a Tennessee knockout style race where you have multiple races in a day, I would still consider this a best option scenario for now from what I've seen out there. But, hopefully in the future we'll have plans specific to that in place, because there would be some differences, right? If you're only racing for 2 hours, again, the main thing that changes is the pace is faster. The intensity is higher, so we need to work those energy systems a little more. But it's still, again, from what I've seen, I haven't seen anything out there that gives a blueprint or a path forward for people who are looking to train specific for a race. So we got our 8-week hard enduro training plan up for sale you can find it on our website, enduromethod.com. Also, for any podcast listeners that are interested, we are giving 25% off purchase. Also, if you purchase this, you'll have it for lifetime. This is not a subscription. This is a one-off plan. So use code, all caps, podcast, HETP.
There you go. If you made it this far in the podcast, you earned a discount.
Yeah. And if you do it, would love to hear some feedback.
Yeah.
At the end. How it worked for you, how it didn't. Too much work, too little work. Too difficult, not difficult enough. Yeah, any and all feedback is great.
All right. Well, you know where to find us, enduromethod.com, and the social media, Enduro Method, at Enduro Method. And get your discount if you're interested. And thanks for listening, as always. And we promise our next podcast won't be salesy.
Yeah.
Okay, cheerio.
Bye.